Okay, everybody. Hello from Pennsylvania. We are starting a game of Global 14 in the prequel. And just like you, waiting patiently for my actual pieces. So you see a lot of ad hoc play testing kind of stuff. I mean, we can't keep printing things, so we just put stickers on and whatever we got to do. But got our old diplomacy board, everything before it's been officially released. We're going to keep track of our victory objectives because we are going to play the transition at the end of this, and it's going to be interesting to see how they change over time. We just kicked off the first turn, which is the spring of 12. The Italians and the Ottomans are at war. We had a very interesting outcome here. The Ottomans reinforced Cyrenaica, attempting to hold on to it, even though I know they're actually about to go to war in the Balkans, which is this draft mini-map here. That's coming in 2 more turns. So they reinforced. The Italians came down, controlled by the French player, my neighbor, Tim, and he attacked the Italians. We are experimenting with a commander's expansion also. So the commander for his boost to the defensive naval power wasn't needed because they soundly defeated the Italians because they were just out of range of this Italian pre-dreadnought. And so that helped them out considerably. But both sides have reinforced what's going on down here in modern-day Libya, and hopefully, as far as I'm concerned, the Turks can hold on to it. Real strange turn of events here. The German player, which is me, went hard after the rebellion in Mexico. They got destroyed. They absolutely just bashed themselves and withdrew. There were some reinforcements by other major powers to put militia in eastern Mexico. And then basically the same thing happened as the Mexicans went on, the revolutionaries went on the offensive against the federales, and they bashed themselves. So other than this one change of territory, not much happened there. Random events. There was typhus in the Balkans, even though war hasn't officially broken out. So a lot of major powers ended up spending money, which they don't have a lot of, in order to improve the medical situation down here in this very volatile area. And so that actually negatively impacted everybody's starting income. And then also the major powers, which were attempting to reinforce Chinese Navy, the Chinese defaulted on their loans, and so they each were able in the random event to roll a die, and we ended up with additional torpedo boat destroyers for Austria, for Germany, for Britain, for our French, and the Americans got a cruiser. So, hey, it turned out well for them. All right, that's our first turn. More updates to follow. Okay, so the summer's somewhat changed things here in Cyrenaica, even though the Ottomans had reinforced it. They were mightily thrown out by the Italians. Good job, Italy. Italy's blockading the Ottomans. However, the Ottomans have built a shipyard, which is kind of nice. We'll see what they do with that. Are they going to put subs out? Who knows? And then over here, revolution continues to spread. They've now got the top of Mexico. However, they impaled themselves again, attempting to attack western Mexico. Probably the biggest thing is the U.S. has occupied Veracruz, and essentially that counts against Mexico being able to roll. And if they attack it, the U.S. can then come blockade that port. And basically, we want to avoid that because we want our ports open. We don't need the U.S. down here with their Navy. And the other big thing was Albania had a revolution against the Ottomans, and they won it. So it's now a strict neutral sitting down here in Albania. That's no fun for the Ottoman Empire. Well, welcome back for the winter of 1912, and things have not changed really substantially in Mexico. And when we look over here, we see the Italians have grabbed the traditional location of Rhodes, so following very much a historical outcome. In a lot of ways, the limitations on Italy and the Ottomans kind of drive it that way. Just the range of the ships. I mean, he could have also attacked over here in Persia and Syria. But this was really a colonial grab by those two major powers. And then, of course, things have kicked off down here in the Balkan War. So at the same time, the Ottomans are concluding the Italian-Turkish War. They're being attacked now by the Balkan League, and the Greeks have moved up, as well as, well, that's it. The Greeks have moved up. The Serbians had a failed attack, but it's winter, so only one round. The random event, ironically, was the same ship event. So we have a lot more torpedo boat destroyers down on the board, and France even got a cruiser. So we could have re-rolled that one. We decided to go with it. It didn't really contradict anything. It was doable. Just actually happened twice. It's going to happen in your games. Some random events repeat. And the other one was the Ottomans sporting a rebellion there in Russia. So, Tim, anything to add on 1912?
Not really. Mexico's up for grabs right now, and we'll see who takes that one out.
All right. Thanks again, and we're going to head into 1913. So, in this very beginning, in spring of 1913, things have not changed much here in Mexico. It's just getting really heavy. The U.S. has poured a lot of money into it. But Germany aligned Cuba. That was a random event, and they placed a cruiser there. So the Americans can go knock that out if they'd like. It's up to them. The real big change was the Italians and the British had a limited war, and the Italians were able to take over Western Egypt, which did not, didn't go well for Britain, but at the same time, the Italians are going to roll on whether or not they join the war at the very beginning of World War I for Germany and Britain. So that's a big change, and that can mean a lot of things. Probably the most significant is there's going to be a lot of bonuses weighted towards the Italians becoming allied, even though they fought the British, because there isn't a large presence from Austria up here in actual Austria. And lastly, the Ottoman Navy sortied out and impaled themselves against the Navy down here for the Greeks, and both navies were utterly destroyed. So that's kind of disappointing for the Austrians, or for the Ottomans. We'll see what they do. Any commentary, Tim?
The Ottomans are in a little bit of trouble in the Balkans with only one part of Macedonia left.
Yeah.
So we will see what happens there.
Yep. Yeah, and there are lots of bonuses for holding on to parts of Macedonia. So once again, we'll see. I think they were going to utilize that opportunity if they knocked out the Greek Navy. Quite frankly, I was going to scoot around and try and get into other parts of Greece, but I don't think that's going to work out now. All right. See you in the summer of 1913. So this summer, we see some changes in that the revolution is moving forward, advancing, and really just feel like Mexico is sucking up a lot of Central Powers money, and it's helped them last a little longer, but I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to support it. Big news here, the Bulgarians took out Thrace, and even though there's a reward to the Ottomans and that they get a free guards army, now the Bulgarians have withdrawn. They're actually going to join the Second Balkan War on the side of the Central Powers. So they've withdrawn back into Bulgaria, and The Ottomans can't come in here and defend these territories because they're not really friendly with each other, and the Bulgarians are either going to have to move units down there or maybe give up the territory itself. And otherwise, Tim, anything else take place?
No, that was the most eventful part of that.
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, we didn't have any other major events that caused us. We did some diplomacy random events, and otherwise, almost other than the territory changes on the mini maps, kind of a quiet year. So we'll see you in the winter of 1913. Okay, so this is kind of an intermediate update to give you an idea of the craziness that can occur. But we in Historical Board Gaming, and myself and Brian, as we have tested this, we still think this is very plausible history. First, I'm going to focus you on what's going on with the revolution. So, in the Mexican Revolution, Emiliano Zapata is raised additional cavalry and infantry, and well, it's really looking good for the revolutionaries. This is an actual historical event. They rose up against the Federals. Now, the Federals weren't doing this poorly in real history, but in the game, they are doing very poorly, and things are really kind of grim now. So, good for the Mexican people, we hope. But the real craziness is what happened over here. So, the Second Balkan War was about to kick off, and let's face it, I mean, this place has been a hotbed for decades, if not centuries. And what happened was essentially the Austrians with the Bulgarians and the Ottomans are now at war with the Serbians, the Greeks, and the Russians. So yes, the Russians are now part of the war. And a lot of things happen with respect to income and placement of units and diplomacy. And on the very next turn, which is going to be early 1914 instead of waiting until past the summer, we're going to get everybody else. So World War I essentially kicked off early, not because of the assassination in Serbia, but because of just the conflict that was already raging. So plausible history. In fact, if you read your history, Russia probably would have gone to war even sooner. They were embarrassed by their inability to mobilize and support the Serbians in the 1912 timeframe, 1913. And in fact, it's what led to a lot of their improvement in capability historically to mobilize, which surprised the Germans and caused such great things to occur. I say great, I mean in that the scale, not the goodness of it, but the scale of things to take place in 1914. So here we are with the Russians mobilizing early against the Austrians, and essentially we're changing history, folks. So that's our update, and we'll see how this winter turn goes in 1913. Yeah, that's correct. So the Americans only have one U.S. infantry. I mean, you have this cavalry over there. You can pick him up. But they attempted to take Cuba, did not. They attempted to finish off parts of the Mexican Revolution as the revolutionaries. They did not. And over here, though, big things. Those nasty Russians did an amphibious assault successfully. And so the Ottomans are going to have to deal with that. The assaults on Galicia failed miserably, and the Ottomans did some moving around. But other than that, that's how the winter turned out, and mostly because it was winter. I think I would have lost Galicia otherwise. Okay, I don't know what to think of this news update. Of course, Mexico, the Germans, and the Central Powers have pretty much given it over. So all that's left of the Federals are in Mexico City. That's fine. I don't know what happened to the last update, but it abruptly cut off. So I just want to show you The Germans have done exceptionally well getting into France. France's counterattack failed miserably. The Ottomans are back in control of their home territory. Italy and Japan joined the Allies, so that's tough. That was a tough blow. In fact, you can see while the Ottomans have taken Kuwait, they've got this combined power of Italy and the UK down in Egypt. That's not looking good. What's really dramatic is that the Russians just plowed into the Germans. The Germans had taken the Congress of Poland there on the west side of Poland. They're up in the north a little bit, making their move, thinking about going north. And the Austrians had a trench line in Galicia. And for whatever reason, it was just a Russian, they plowed over them. They absolutely walked all over them. Now, some people may look at this and go, oh my gosh, it's lost. This game is over. Not even close. This isn't, there's no blitzing. There's no ability of the Russians to really follow this up. You can tell how weak they are behind. You get in behind them, you defend in depth. You continue to put pressure on the French. Notice the British couldn't even repair their factory because of all the German raiders, like that one. Got some more raiders out here in the Pacific. The British didn't even have any money to build an army to support the things that are going on in France. So Germany may have some breathing room. Go take care of those pesky Russians and see if we can get into this war proper. So anyways, I'm going to wrap it up there. We're going to get into the remainder of World War I later this week. Don't know if we're going to continue to do updates, but it was fun showing you the prequel.